Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, True Crime Files, and I'm Kathy. This case, he's come back to light again. I was concerned when I first did it if this case would go as a cold case. I reported this about 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks ago. I can't remember when. But he is still missing, and Jesse Webber's now done something on his side. But I'll just give a sort of like a brief rundown about him. And you have to forgive me if I can't pronounce some of the words. Willaim Neil McCasland, the Benillo County Sheriff Office continues the active search and investigation into the disappearance of 68-year-old William Neil McCasland, who was last seen on Friday, the 27th of February 2026, approximately about 11 a.m. A silver alert still remains in place for him. BCSO is coordinating with partners at Kirtland Air Force Base to expand the outreach and speed information sharing that may assist in locating Mr. McCasland. Sheriff John Allen, an honorary base commander at Kirkland, is assisting those in the coordination efforts. What can the community do right now? Check security videos, doorbell cameras, home or business cameras, dash cams from around about Friday, the 27th of February, between 9 and 2 p.m. around Quail Run Court, northeast area, along any routes leading away from the neighbourhood. Preserve original files if possible. Do not edit or trim them, and share the files to the number down below. So, a little bit about him. His date of birth is 1957, and like I said, he went missing around on Friday the 27th of February this year, around 11 o'clock in the morning. Due to his background and established partnerships in BCSO, is coordinating closely with multiple agencies, including FBI Albuquerque Field Office, and which is assisting as standard practice when it has a tool, tactic, or technique that may benefit the investigation. So the BCSO remains to be the lead agency in this. 10 o'clock, a repairman was at the residence and interacted with Neil. Let me see if I've got anything on that one. Just bear with me. No, not on that one. So yeah, his wife Susan, she left the home about 10 past 11 that morning for a medical appointment, and then at 4 minutes past 12 Susan returned home and Neil was not there. His phone, prescription glasses, wearable devices were located at the residence. In the afternoon, there's no exact time for this, Susan began attempting to locate Neil or William and contacted the family and friends, to say, where is he? Have you seen him? At 7 minutes past 3, Susan reported him missing. The Bernallo, if I can pronounce that right, Sheriff's Office investigators determined that several items may have been taken from the residence. Hiking boots, wallet, 38 caliber revolver with a leather holster. And they believe that he was wearing a light green long sleeve button up outdoor shirt. So there is a 911 call, which I shall play in a minute. At 6 minutes past 7, the County Sheriff's Office issued a silver alert for Mr. Caslan. Authorities cited unspecific medical concerns as reasons they believe he might be in danger. A silver alert is issued when a missing adult may be because of age or vulnerability, because of medical or down to brain things. Me and my dyslexia, I tell you, can be bad at times. So investigators requested video records on Friday the 27th, Saturday the 28th. The priority review window is from 9 o'clock in the morning to 2 p.m. Areas of interest included Quail Run Court Northeast, nearby streets and routes leading away from the neighbourhood, nearby Sandia foothills, trails, and open space areas. Authorities also asked hikers and runners and cyclists who were in the foothills around the 27th to the 28th to review their GoPro recordings, cell phone and video photos. So, they're asking for everything if anyone can find it. On the 1st of March, the New Mexico Search and Rescue joins the investigation to assist with ground searches in the foothills behind Matt Castellan's neighborhood. So yeah, again, they were still asking, to check open space, wilderness terrain, and things. On the 2nd of March, they sent out drones, K9 units, helicopters, horseback search teams, and ground search crews. Law enforcement and volunteers searched the rugged foothills and trails behind Sandia Heights neighborhood. And they're saying that Willaim did not appear to take any common personal items, included glasses, cell phone, and smartwatch. The Air Force released a statement on the retired general's disappearance. We are coordinating closely with local authorities and defer all updates regarding the search efforts to the county sheriff's office, said Colonel Justin Seacrest, base commander of the 377th Air Base wing at Kirkland. So, since he's been missing in February, they have been doing all sorts of things. He's an avid outdoorsman, so, he's likely to go on a cycle, run, or hike. So everyone seems to be, looking for him, but no one's sort of like come close to him. And it's a bit like the Nancy Guthrie case where she's just disappeared, even though there was video footage of someone at Nancy's home. So before I go to Jesse Weber, I'll just see about playing the 911 call. Bear with me. Where was it? I've gone past it. Got to find it on the notes. Wrong one. So how's everyone's Good Friday doing? Well, I'm trying to find this. Anyone got loads of Easter eggs for Sunday? I'm a good girl. I only got one Easter egg. Yeah, I can play the press conference. Let me make sure I can. Right, I might have to suddenly stop this because of the music playing. Because as we all know, YouTube don't like music being played. Now which one was it I was going to play? This one. My mouse doesn't want to operate either. I'll just check you can see what I'm going to see.
In Albuquerque, New Mexico, about 7 hours away from where Nancy Guthrie went missing, although the circumstances a little different. I think the biggest piece of information that came out a couple of days ago was that he left without his phone, but with a gun and hiking boots. So we expect an update here, although we don't have a clue as to what it's about. But Sleuthie, I'm guessing that they found him, but not validated yet. We have about 6 minutes to go.
Bear with. No, what I'll do, I'll come off this one because I can't trust it with the music playing. I still need to find the 99 call. I know Jesse Weber's probably got it on his one. I think it was down here somewhere. Let's go down the bottom. Trouble is when you have everything close by. Commission, second of thing, doctors. He's got a really good, colourful past, of his work history, being in like the aeronautical engineering departments and Doctor of Physiology. I can't say that. Where is the source for this? Sometimes it can be right in front of me and I still fail to see it. I had it just now and I don't think I saved it. If not, we'll just have to go to Jesse's one. But I wanted to check if my one was maybe slightly different. I will find it, guys. Thank you for sort of like staying with me. I should have had this already. Transcript source, that's it, I think. Yes, I have it. Right, let me share this page with you. At long last. Better late than never, I guess, isn't it? Right, here we go. Don't tell me there's no sound. Oh,
my husband is missing.
A minute.
This is April. How may I help you?
Hi, April. My name is Susan Wilkerson. My husband is missing.
Okay.
And it's been about 3 hours, and I have some indication that he must have planned not to be found. He's left his phone. He changed his clothes into I don't know what. I think he's on foot. All of our cars and bicycles are in the garage. I left for a doctor's appointment at about 11:10, and he was here at that time at the house. And I got back from that at noon, and he was gone. He turned it off and left it behind, which seems kind of deliberate because he's always got his phone. He has a smartwatch. I don't know if that's with him or not.
Has he ever done this before?
Never. Nothing even remotely like it. He's a retired Air Force Major General. He's very responsible, but he's also facing some medical issues.
Do you have any video at your home?
No.
Has he been diagnosed with any mental disorders or anything like that?
Well, we've been seeing a doc for both physical and mental in terms of anxiety, short-term memory loss, lack of sleep. The same doc I went to see today.
Does he carry any weapons on him?
Well, not generally. He does have a gun safe, and I went to look in the gun safe to see if anything was missing, but I couldn't tell if anything was. He has quite a number of pistols and rifles. Other than saying if his brain and body keep deteriorating, he didn't want to live like that. But it seemed to me that was just a, man, I hate how this is going kind of thing, because I told him, yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Okay. We're going to send some deputies up to talk to you, see if you can search a little bit and see what's going on, okay?
Sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so after listening to that call, it makes me wonder if he has taken his own life, because when someone's mental health is degraded, and if he had dementia or anything like that, knowing his background and being a general commander in charge and everything else, he probably wouldn't want that for himself, and he probably doesn't want anybody to see him in that way, because he would want people to remember him the way he was. And by the sounds of it, he was a very smart person, in memory, and that very clever person, and quite a big establishment behind him in his workforce. So I'm wondering if he's taken his own life, because he's taken a hiking boot, so he's obviously planning to go to a place where no one's really likely to find him, and he hasn't taken a cell phone with him. All he's taken is his pistol. It's really sad that he went missing in February, and we're now in April, and no sight or sound of him has been found. But let me go to Jesse Weber and see what Jesse Weber has to say. I haven't seen Jesse Weber's one. I've got a feeling they're going to play the same 911 call that I've got. But if they do, they do. His wife sounded ever so calm, didn't she? I mean, if my husband was missing, I don't think, I would have been that calm.
Have some indication that he must have planned not to be found. He turned it off and left it behind, which seems kind of deliberate.
That is the wife of retired Air Force Major General Willaim Neil McCaslin, heard in a 911 call that had never been released until now.
I think he's on foot. All of our cars and bicycles are in the garage.
This is a big new development in the story that we have been covering of a missing man with work tied to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, a place long rumored to be connected to Roswell and UFOs. And now he apparently walks out of his house in the middle of the day, allegedly changes his clothes, and vanishes. So what happened in that narrow window between when his wife left and when she came home? And one of the most highly trained men in the U.S. military is just gone? Let's talk about it. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. A retired two-star Air Force general allegedly walks out of his house in the middle of the day, apparently leaves his phone, his glasses, his smartwatch, seemingly changes his clothes into something that his wife apparently can't identify, and then nothing. For weeks, no sightings, no video, no answers, just speculation. UFOs, government secrets, a name tied to hacked emails about Roswell. But right now, we have something new. We have something in our hands that as of right now, at the time we're publishing this, we haven't seen anyone else publish it. This is a brand new 911 call from his wife made just hours after he vanished. And I want you to listen. This is part of it. I want you to listen to what she tells the dispatcher.
My husband is missing.
Okay.
And it's been about 3 hours, and I have some indication that he must have planned not to be found.
That, again, is the wife of retired Major General Willaim McCaslin. And what she says next about his mental state, about him not wanting to be found, we're not only going to break it down, but we're also going to bring in somebody to help make sense of this, a key law enforcement expert with the Cold Case Foundation. Because when weeks go by with no answers, when a man who spent his career inside America's most secretive programs just vanishes into thin air, where do investigators even start? Where did they go? What do we make of this 911 phone call? Now, before we even get into this new audio that we haven't heard before, I need to put all of this into context so the call will make sense, okay? Who exactly are we talking about? Who exactly are we looking for? Willaim Neil McCaslin, 68 years old, retired Major General, United States Air Force. This isn't some random guy who wandered off. This is somebody who spent 34 years apparently working on some of the most sensitive technology the military has. Astronautical engineering, space acquisition, the National Reconnaissance Office, that's the spy satellite people. And eventually he took command of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. Now, Wright-Patterson It's important. For decades, conspiracy theorists have claimed that is where the government secretly stored debris from Roswell. The Air Force, to be clear, has never confirmed that, but the association sticks. And as we continue to cover this case, a person like this goes missing, people start talking, people start speculating. Now, the conspiracy theories aside, here's what we actually do know. We know that it was February 27th, a Thursday morning. Now, according to the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, around 10 a.m., a repairman shows up at McCaslin's home on Quail Run Court in Albuquerque in New Mexico. Scheduled appointment, goes inside, interacts with McCaslin. That's confirmed. And about an hour later, 11:10, his wife, Susan, leaves for a doctor's appointment. When she gets back, just after noon, 12:04, he's apparently gone. Now, at first glance, maybe he stepped out for a walk. He's an avid outdoorsman, hiking, biking, skiing, knew those foothills cold in the area. But then she starts looking around. His phone still on the counter. His prescription glasses sitting there. His smartwatch abandoned there.
It makes you wonder if he was kidnapped. Just like the Nancy Guthrie case. I mean, you never know. It's just a possibility and it's just an opinion. But carry on playing it anyway.
And his clothes? She says she knew what he was wearing when she left, but, and this is interesting, she ends up finding those clothes later in the closet. So he seemingly changed into something else, something she can't identify right now. So she calls 911 and right away, she says something that will just stop you cold. Again, this is new audio. We haven't heard it before. Take a listen.
This is April. How may I help you?
Hi, April. My name is Susan Wilkerson. My husband is missing.
Okay.
And it's been about 3 hours, and I have some indication that he must have planned not to be found. He's left his phone. He changed his clothes into I don't know what. I think he's on foot. All of our cars and bicycles are in the garage. I left for a doctor's appointment at about 11:10, and he was here at that time at the house. And I got back from that at noon, and he was gone. He turned it off and left it behind, which seems kind of deliberate because he's always got his phone. He has a smartwatch. I don't know if that's with him or not.
Has he ever done this before?
Never. Nothing even remotely like it. He's a retired Air Force Major General. He's very responsible, but he's also facing some medical issues.
Do you have any video at your home?
No.
Has he been diagnosed with any mental disorders or anything like that?
Well, we've been seeing a doc for both physical and mental in terms of anxiety, short-term memory loss, lack of sleep. The same doc I went to see today.
Does he carry any weapons on him?
Well, not generally. He does have a gun safe, and I went to look in the gun safe to see if anything was missing, but I couldn't tell if anything was. He has quite a number of pistols and rifles. Other than saying if his brain and body keep deteriorating, he didn't want to live like that. But it seemed to me that was just a, man, I hate how this is going kind of thing, because I told him, yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Okay. We're going to send some deputies up to talk to you, see if we can search a little bit and see what's going on, okay?
Sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
So here's a question, okay? You're a 911 dispatcher. Woman calls, says her husband, this former Major General, walked out of the house hours ago, no phone, no glasses, apparently changed his clothes, and she says he planned not to have been found. I mean, honestly, what goes through your head about that? How do you even start the investigation? And by the way, how does the wife know this, right? That's key, right? What about his routine? What about, did she know about him says that this is a situation that he may have taken active steps to not be found? So to help answer all of this, to get reaction to this, to figure out where this investigation goes from here, we're bringing in somebody who has been doing this work for decades. Chris McDonough is Director of Law Enforcement Relations and an investigative consultant with the Cold Case Foundation. Chris, so good to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate the invitation, bud.
Will you tell me what stands out to you the most about that call?
Well, right away, I mean, the first red flag with inside that phone call is just that comment. You know, he must have a plan or something to that effect. And, you know, that's kind of one of these anomalies, right? What we would call DLR, doesn't look right or doesn't sound right. And not that it couldn't be right. That would be like the first step off point when the first officer gets on the scene to start looking into this thing.
The idea that she didn't say someone must have taken him, someone must have done something to him. There was this acknowledgement that based on the man she knows, and in particular about the clothing and the items left behind, that he did this, that he didn't want to be found. You compare it to the Nancy Guthrie case, which is obviously different, but there wasn't an indication, well, maybe initially that we weren't entirely sure what happened, but it was pretty clear this wasn't a wandering off situation, and yes, she's much older than McCaslin, but the idea that he must have planned not to be found is very, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because who's introducing that plan, right? We hear it very first on the 911 call. He planned not to be found. Well, all right, when the first deputy gets on the scene and they start, they have a couple of priorities. The first priority is to see if there's any suspicious activity in relationship to how the environment looks. Okay, then the second activity there that's going on simultaneously is you're interviewing witnesses, and in this case, the family, the wife, and you want to lock them into a statement so that, later on when the investigators get on scene, and if it didn't sound right or it doesn't look right, like we were talking a moment ago, then, you tell that to your first responding investigators. And the third piece of that puzzle is you got to start looking through the house, and you have to start looking through the anomalies that she may have been talking about on the phone, i.e. she has a lot of guns. He's been going through a lot of mental stuff. We went to the same doctor, etc. And you want to start looking for evidence that will correlate to the truthfulness of potentially that statement. So in this case, it is critical and would have been critical right from the very moment that first deputy got on scene to potentially start telling the story.
I think the clothes were a big indication, right? The idea that the clothes were. So does it become almost impossible to know what he was wearing then? I mean, how do you know the whole wardrobe collection of a human being, even if you're married to them? And also, unless they purchased clothes beforehand that they hadn't worn before, that seems like a challenge in and of itself.
Yeah, right. And this is why you don't go into these investigations asking the word how, but always asking the word why. Why would he have left, the items behind, like his cell phone, his prescription glasses, all the wearables, right? The things that you're going to need out there in the world. And so you have to start breaking that down. And then you have to start plugging those, gaps of really gumshoe investigative techniques. I mean, the strongest tool for any surgeon is a scalpel. But for an investigator, it's the question. So the very first type of questions that are put out to the witnesses / even the wife and the family, those are going to tell you the wounds potentially inside this investigation. And you're going to be able to figure out, okay, how do I need to stitch these wounds up? Where investigators get screwed up is they write the prescription without doing the diagnosis. And so sometimes, if somebody was, if there's foul play here, well, the suspect has the advantage in that situation. And, some of the red flags that even like you're talking about there jump right out. He missing hiking boots, a gun, etc. But where's all of this coming from? It's coming from the inside of his home, i.e. through the witnesses that last saw him. And so you want to make sure that you're cutting through that pretty quickly with the right type of questioning and interviewing techniques.
And I wonder if there's a complication that this is not just John Smith who disappears, but this is somebody who has training. This is somebody who's an outdoorsman. And you wonder if this is the case where they don't want to be found. Is it likely they won't be found?
Well, that's always a possibility, right? I mean, with his military training, the question is, if he's wandering away from his house, you have to now do what they call a geographical profile and say, okay, how far would this guy get? He's 68 years old, may have some upcoming health issues, but he's also healthy. based on what his wife is saying. He doesn't have any dementia issues per se. So immediately you'd want to talk to his doctors. You'd want to talk to the last people that saw him and try to tighten up that timeline. And then simultaneously, if he doesn't want to be found, then you want to start looking for a digital footprint in today's environment.
I just want to go back to the mental health aspect of it, right? I think that's really a concerning, chilling part of it, the lack of sleep, short-term memory loss, anxiety. If my brain and body keeps deteriorating, a question of whether or not he wants to live like that. One of the challenges is if we are dealing with a situation, somebody did something to themselves, how on earth is it possible that with all of these agencies looking for him, that he still can't be found? That's why there are others who believe, was he apprehended? Was he taken? Or again, you go back to the idea you said, how can someone just disappear? But that's the part that's challenging, right? Even if somebody did something to themselves, where are they? Where's their body?
Well, this is a really interesting case, and where I used to work in San Diego County. We had a case in Rancho Santa Fe. His name was Ian Spiro. I don't know if you've ever heard of that name, but he lived in a very wealthy neighborhood. His family, 4 members of his family, his 3 children and his wife, were found deceased in his house. And then he was later found, in, I believe it was the Borrego Desert, in his vehicle, and he had drank some cyanide. And everybody didn't know who he was at the time, but just fast forward here, and the correlations is he ended up being some high-level government operative, where he was a gun dealer, et cetera, et cetera. And to this day, that case still has not been solved. And this has the smell of something like that, where you have this high-level government guy who just decides, hey, I'm just going to walk away from my house. They find a potential piece of clothing, a couple of miles away. But to your point, he's just evaporated. Now, people can do that, but there's also, to your point, all these other conspiracies he's coming up here. And you have to ask yourself, okay, well, what's going on in that house first? And you don't leave that environment, because in this case, he's a very low risk victim, meaning his environment, he's at his house, his situation, he's at his house, his circumstance, it's early in the morning. That puts him way down on the low risk thing. So there's a higher probability that he was either targeted by somebody he knew or somebody that had access to his environment.
And that window, the sheriff's office releases the timeline, repairman at 10 a.m., wife leaves 11:10, she's back 12:04. It's such a narrow window. And you wonder how investigators, work a timeline like that. And the sheriff's office, by the way, has been pretty open about how unusual all this is. Here's how they put it.
His wearable devices and taking his phone were common practice with him. That is out of the norm. We said from the get-go that this was an abnormal behavior by his part, and thus we are looking at every possible aspect of it and willing to unturn any stone that we can in order to help identify where Mr. McCaslin is.
And apparently they searched hard: drones, helicopters, canine unit, cadaver dogs. Grid searched the canyon where his wearable devices showed he hiked. And here's the thing. They later found the green shirt and the hiking boots that they thought he left in. This was at the family's second home in Pagosa Springs, Colorado. So they don't actually know what he was wearing. And by the way, the sheriff's office addressed that too.
We've received a lot of tips about items that have been located. We check every one of them. We check with family and friends to see if those are items that were known to be utilized by him or owned by him. And we'll continue to do that. So that's the update on these items that you are seeing being brought forward. We're not saying he left in them. They are just unaccounted for.
So, Chris, you're hearing the response from law enforcement. It's been a while now. Where do you think they are at the investigation?
Well, hopefully they're at a situation where they're starting to look at that digital footprint, if it exists. If, in fact, those items are connected to this particular disappearance and they're found at a different location, that means you potentially have 2 crime scenes here. And so now you have to connect those dots, right? How do we get from point A to point B? Backwards. Did he have a plan? I mean, let's say this was an intentional walkaway. What was part of that plan? Well, if it's a rental car or if it's some type of vehicle that would be utilized to get to that second location, then that information is going to be available to law enforcement. They're eventually going to find that. But if there's, let's say, another situation where he runs into somebody, who has, bad intent, for lack of a better term. I've had a kidnapping case where a mother left a pot of potatoes on the store, and she went to the local grocery store and she vanished. And we found her 4 months later. She was buried. And we also discovered that the suspects that she ran into were at the grocery store, and it was a kidnapping for robbery. And so if this is a situation where, let's say, he goes out and then he runs into somebody, we don't know if that's a possibility that could have taken him to a secondary location and said, okay, we're going to go from here.
Yeah, or he wanted to meet with somebody. We just don't know, because again, it's such a narrow window. When he left, when he went missing, I mean, goes missing right after the wife leaves. Those items are left. It's difficult to know one way or another. And then there's the gun, by the way. So this .38 caliber revolver, the leather holster, is still missing. Sheriff's office was asked if he normally carried it. Take a look.
He wouldn't commonly hike with a weapon on him. That would be relegated for maybe overnight camping trips and things of that sort. And then it was for personal protection. So what are we looking for with that? Well, if, say, General McCaslin had recently gone to a pawn shop and sold that off, and we just weren't aware of that, or his wife wasn't aware of that, we'd want to know that. And so that would be something that would be of interest. If someone is hiking in the mountains and finds a spent .38 special casing, that would be unique, that we would want to be able to take and process. So that's why we're putting that information out.
Yeah, Chris, real quick. I mean, that's a really smart police work to try to figure out how the gun could be connected, but I haven't heard any updates about it. So I wonder if that's a dead end now.
It could be, Jesse. It actually could. And the anomaly there is he took it with a holster. Okay. If you're going to, typically with somebody who's going to do self-harm, for lack of a better term, why do you need the holster? Okay. I mean, I've seen so many death scenes that if somebody's going to take care of business, i.e. they're going to hurt themselves, they're just going to tuck that weapon right in, potentially into their pants or carry it or whatever.
I would challenge and say maybe again, if we're talking about him taking it, custom. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was it's process. He always kept it in the holster, let's say. And maybe, I don't know what distance he might have traveled. It would have been whatever alleged plan he had or whatever he wanted to do. It would have been more secure to have it in the holster before he decided to use it, or if he needed to use it.
Right. And I wouldn't disagree with that at all. But at the same time, he's going to go to a location where they're going to find his body. And they haven't discovered that at this point. So it's almost like these items are mentioned to create this confusion. And that's, I guess, where I'm going there in that thought process. It's like there's too many little details that do not make sense. The boots, the wallet, all the stuff that he left behind, but he takes his gun and it's like, well, wait a minute, that's not lining up.
There's another layer to this story that a lot of people just can't stop talking about. I want to get your take on it because McCaslin apparently isn't the only person in his orbit who's disappeared or died under strange circumstances. There is Melissa Cassius, worked as an administrative assistant at Los Alamos National Laboratory. This is the same lab that developed the atomic bomb. She vanished in June of 2025, walked away from her car, left her phone, wallet, keys behind. Last seen on camera, walking alone on a highway, gone. There's Monica Reza, a NASA rocket scientist, disappeared while hiking with friends in California just 4 days before Cassius vanished. She worked on a project funded by the Air Force Research Laboratory, the same lab that McCaslin used to oversee. And then there's Carl Grillmeyer, renowned astrophysicist, shot dead at his home in California in February, right around the time that McCaslin went missing. His shooter was arrested, worked on telescope projects that were powered by military technology that was monitored by that same lab. And to be clear, I'm not saying all this is connected. Correlation is not causation. But do you see a disturbing pattern here? Do you think this should all be investigated?
Absolutely. I mean, with those types of connections, right? Who's in a circle of influence? And now, all these other individuals have also disappeared. And it's interesting. Look at the correlations in relationship to hiking, okay, and just people outdoors. All of these events occurring outdoors. If that in of itself is suspicious, what are the odds of a team working together, and this explains, and then disappearing together, right? And this explains why the FBI is involved in this, and it's not just a local issue from the sheriff's department. That was one of the things that jumped out right away to me. It's like, why are the feds involved in this? Yeah, the guy's retired military. I mean, my father was in the Marine Corps for 31 years. Okay, but if he disappeared, the federal FBI wouldn't come knocking on my door. Okay, and so there's a real challenge there when we see them involved, and maybe it's to your point because there potentially could be a correlation.
Former FBI Assistant Director Chris Swecker told the Daily Mail that investigators just can't look at these cases in isolation. He said, quote, "The FBI can't have these examined in isolation and compartmentalize them as individual missing person cases." You have Congressman Eric Burleson also called for the FBI to get involved. He said the disappearances are deeply concerning. And then I want to go to this other aspect, the UFO angle, because McCaslin's name shows up in those hacked WikiLeaks emails. Tom DeLonge talking about him as the guy who ran the lab at Wright-Patterson, same place that Roswell debris supposedly went. Tom DeLonge from Blink-182. Sheriff's office was asked about this. Their answer was basically, just because it's crazy doesn't mean it's not true, but we can't investigate that. And I've asked a bunch of guests that I've talked to about this. How far can they go in terms of looking at his past and looking at his history and looking at what he was working on? Because I imagine there's issues of security clearance and classified documents. Talk to me about that.
Well, they can't go very far. Even the feds can't go very far, the FBI, unless, there's, what they call green card security clearances. And the fact that all of these things are compartmentalized, i.e., some of these projects may have been top secret, et cetera, you can get close to the door, but that doesn't mean that door is going to open. And that was one of the interesting things with the Ian Spiro case that I was talking about. The news got as close as, yes, there was some government connections, i.e., he was potentially looked at as one of the arms dealer during the Iran-Contra gun supply. Okay. And so once it got to that level, that's as far as it went. And that case to this day, again, has never been solved. And that was in the 90s. And so is this going to fall into that bucket where everybody's going to get close, and because of the other, high level projects that this guy was overseeing, they can't get close enough?
Bottom line is, we don't know what happened to him. We just don't know. Right. That's the honest answer. I will say, if you were in the Sandia foothills on February 27th, 28th, check your cameras, the doorbell footage, dash cams, photos you took that day. You can submit tips to the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office Missing Persons Unit at 505-468-7070. You can text anonymously through tip 411, text ECSO, and your tip to 847-411. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jesse.
But that's all we have for you right now.
Right. Let's stop sharing that one a minute. Right. As we all know, let me put his image back up so that you can see him. As we all know, when we're told unclassified medical issues, we all automatically think someone of Willaim's age, Alzheimer's, depression, dementia, we automatically think that may be the case. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But till you hear it from the source, you can't presume that it is. We can always say, in my opinion, it might be this and it might not be that. While I was doing the recording, I came across, I don't know how to share this one. Bear with me a minute. Oh gosh, my voice is gone. A minute. I'm up here, aren't I? Let me see if I can share this. While I was recording this, I was doing some search and that, because it's always nice to hear the real truth by the people who know the real truth, to stop any speculations. And that I've heard that, he was abducted by aliens and a UFO came down and swooped him up and all sorts of things, but you take them with a piece of salt, because it's not proven. So you can't say that is what has happened. But while I was on air searching, I'll see if I can share screen. Yeah. So I'll read this out to you. Susan McCason, I can never pronounce people's names right. Let me just bring the page up higher. She posted the, oh gosh, what have I done? She posted this on the 6th of March at 7:05 p.m. Neil, I'll just say Neil because I don't want to pronounce the surname wrong. Neil has been missing now for 1 week. There has been no indication whatsoever where he might be. There have been dozens of searches on foot, and both official and friends and neighbours of Neil who coordinate with the official sources. There also has been horseback searchers, drones with different capabilities, helicopters, 3 different types of search dogs, neighbourhood canvassing, looking for ring or wildlife videos. Organisations involved is the County Sheriff's Office, which is the lead organisation in the Albuquerque field office of the FBI NM State Search and Rescue, Albuquerque Mountain Rescue Air Force Office of Special Investigations, Albuquerque Police Department, and maybe others which I am unaware. I am so grateful to one and all of their unflagging, dedicated efforts and support. I'd like to take this opportunity to dispel some of the misinformation circulating about Neil and his disappearance, mostly from uninformed media sources. The initial silver alert from BCSO mentioned medical conditions, which I have taken to mean Alzheimer's. Neil is at some risk, but not from dementia. He was not confused and disorientated. There was no concerning Friday morning telephone call to a close relative. I have been in contact with all his close relatives and some not so close ones. This is complete fabrication. It is true that when Neil was in the Air Force, he had access to some highly classified programs and information. He retired from the Air Force almost 13 years ago and has commonly, I can take my headphones off now. I hate wearing headphones. Gosh, I've lost my trail of thought now. He retired from the Air Force almost 13 years ago and has only very commonly held clearance since. It seems quite unlikely that he is taken to extract a very dated secrets from him. It is true that Neil had a brief association with the UFO community through Tom DeLonge, former frontman of Blink 182 and founder of the organization To the Stars. Neil worked with Tom for a bit shortly after his Air Force retirement as unpaid, Neil's choice, consultant on the military and technical scientific matters, to Tom's fiction book and media activities after the Russians hacked John Podesta's emails. See Neil's Wikipedia page. There was less contact with Tom and the community pushing for release of UFO information. This connection is not the reason for someone to abduct Neil. Neil does not have any special knowledge about the ET bodies and debris from the Roswell crash stored at Wright Pat. Although at this point, with absolutely no sign of him, maybe the best hypothesis is the aliens beamed him up to the mothership. However, no sightings of a mothership hovering above Sandia Mountains has been reported. All the thoughts and prayers from around the country are much appreciated. I will update if any real information comes in. Now, that is really nice. You know, it's always nice to hear something, as I say, or as we probably say in the UK, from the horse's mouth. And that because Susan has then summed it up, you know, she wouldn't tend to be untruthful with his medical issues. So, like I said at the beginning, I just presumed, and my thoughts, as well as anyone else, is just our opinions until they're proven otherwise. But now we know that he didn't have dementia or Alzheimer's, which is really good piece of news to have. So there's loads of other medical things he could have had, anything from sort of like heart problems, diabetes, you name it. There could have been a number of things. He could have had arthritis. That's a medical condition. So, we were all probably quick to jump up on when they said medical issues, and we presume of his age, he's got dementia or Alzheimer's. But Susan's cleared that up really nicely. And, I will send her a message to thank her, because it is really nice to know that she's gone out of her way to try and put right of all the untruths that she's seen and everyone else has seen going on the internet. So that brings me to the close of this episode. And that's, I do appreciate you staying with me, and hopefully we got a bit more clarification now, but we can't let this go to a cold case. And that, it's been since the 27th of February now. We need to find him for his wife and family's sake. Whether he's, still alive or if he's unalive, we still need to bring him back home, don't we, guys? So if you can like and share and the story, then it helps to get into the YouTube algorithms. And then that way the show's shown to a broader audience. So then more people get to know about this. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you on the next one, which will probably be tomorrow now on Saturday. So see you all. Bye.